Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, adnastana. It's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio, and I'm bringing you the first in a series of sort of tragedy to triumph stories from a gentleman who reached out to me recently. And in this interview, I'm going to be interviewing a new friend. I'm going to call him a new friend named Zachary Castillo. Like I said, he reached out to me last week, and Mr. Castillo is a member of the Odd Fellows Aaron Lodge number 4 in a place called Scotland, Arkansas. And it's another one of those cases where first of all, he didn't even know where the lodge was. He didn't know a whole lot about Odd Fellowship and things such as that. He was looking to join fraternalism. And there's a whole story to it. I'm going to let him tell it. But the Odd Fellows, I'll just briefly recap on who the Odd Fellows are. The Odd Fellows is a non-political and non-sectarian international fraternal order. It was founded in Great Britain in the 1700s. Okay, it was brought to the United States with the early settlers. The first documented Odd Fellows Lodge was formed in 1730 in England. Now, that's that we know of. I always say, be careful with these times and dates. Odd Fellowship was probably around in the United Kingdom much earlier than that. The Odd Fellows have had some prominent members of society. To name some presidents, they've had Ulysses S. Grant, Warren G. Harding, Rutherford B. Hayes, as well as, believe it or not, our very first prime minister in Canada was also an Odd Fellow, right? Now, as I said, Mr. Castillo is here to discuss some exciting news on not only is he revamping his lodge, but he's also trying to recharter another lodge in his hometown. I think this is wonderful. I love these kinds of stories. Like I said, these sort of tragedy to triumph stories. And there's a whole story behind this. Like I said, I did a series of interviews with him. So I can't wait to get started into this. But are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me. Mr. Castillo, welcome to Points of Light Radio.
How you doing?
Very good, thank you. You are a member of the Aaron Lodge number 4 in, I believe where is it again?
Scotland, Arkansas.
Scotland, Arkansas, that's right. So, first of all, let's tell my listeners and viewers about yourself.
Well, I'm 26. I got started back in September of 2023. That's whenever I went and took my initiatory degree. Within 2 months, I already had another member who was interested in joining. And we've slowly started growing the lodge. We've just been working on trying to revamp that Aaron Lodge, at least, as they were struggling for membership.
Yeah, let's break that down. We talked earlier, so I want you to tell me about the lodge itself. The condition, shall we say, membership-wise and so on, that the lodge was in, the challenges you faced.
Yeah, so whenever I first started, they had a total of about 6 members that were actually on the roster.
Oh my goodness.
Only 5 actually showed up to a typical meeting. The vice grand almost never came in. She was the one who was kind of touch and go as to whether or not she'd show up or not. Everybody else did typically come, but you were at 5 people. So if, say, one person fell ill or got sick,
Or had to go home early, or yeah.
or had to go home, that's right. You'd no longer have the minimum 5 people to hold the quorum. And from my understanding, that did happen several times where there were members, there are several members that lived 30 minutes away. And so they drive to the lodge and, well, you couldn't hold a meeting.
Oh,
And
okay, yeah.
you drove all that way. And also, this lodge building is incredibly remote. There is no cell service at all. You are very lucky. You have to drive at least a mile, if not farther, to even get cell service. You just never quite knew. So it wasn't like, say, you get to the lodge and you find out not everybody's going to be there and you can call somebody else very quickly. You'd have to go somewhere else to even make that phone call.
Well, tell us about Scotland as well. Whereabouts is Scotland within Arkansas? Like, what's the closest city or whatever?
The closest, even remotely bigger town, I guess you could call, is Clinton, which is they are both in Van Buren County. But Clinton has a population of about 2,500 people. Anything that is going to be bigger is at least an hour away. So if you're looking at something more bigger, you're looking, I think the closest one is going to be Conway, Arkansas, which is about 30 minutes away from Little Rock. If you're going, Scotland is north of Little Rock, a considerable distance.
Now, and you're not in even where you drive, and you've drive for, I think you said, an hour or so just to get there?
Yeah, it takes about an hour and a half. The routes are incredibly rural. There is pretty much no highway
My goodness.
that you're taking, no freeway use or anything like that. The Scotland has a population, again, of about 250 people. It's a very small little town. So the fact that, most people have probably never heard of it does not surprise me.
Well, and I think it also tells you something about the history of Odd Fellowship, how it used to be everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
small
and
towns, big towns, everything. Like a lot of these organizations, they used to be like everywhere.
that's right. Well, what they ended up doing is this lodge that's in Scotland now actually originated in an area called Leslie,
Okay.
which is even further north, more northwest area of Arkansas, up in the very hilly Ozarky type area. And they actually started out on the upper level of what was a pharmacy
Okay.
around 2005. Ended up the owner of the building either sold or passed away, and they no longer had a place to meet. So they ended up finding out that the original lodge building that was in Scotland was actually still owned by the Grand Lodge of Arkansas.
Wow. Now,
Uh,
by the way,
no lodge there, though.
oh, okay. Now, the lodge itself now, when do you meet and how long are the meetings?
The meetings are relatively short. If it's just a business meeting,
Good.
we're talking 45 minutes to an hour. We do get together and have a potluck starting about an hour before
That's good.
for
Brotherhood.
some fellowship and whatnot. And so everybody brings something, and doesn't have to be anything fancy. But it has been fun. And, since I started and I was, say, their seventh member, we're now up to 10.
Okay.
Uh, so I developed, a considerable number of applicants. And now that little fellowship hall that we've had with, or kitchen area, whatever you want to call it, is full. And so everybody's able to have separate conversations and interact with each other and
This is
all
beautiful.
laugh instead of just, the same few people talking type of deal.
And I think that's wonderful. Now, what would you say the makeup of the lodge is now? Young, old, whatever?
I think one of the biggest things is we've created a much broader age range.
Good. Big time.
Um,
Yeah.
Whenever I first started, I still am the youngest member. I'm again 26. So the next person was, I believe he's 48. And then after him, everybody was 70 and up. Um, Now we have a gentleman in his 60s. We have two guys in their 50s. Still the guy who's in his 40s, and then me. And currently we have another gentleman who's put in his application and he's in his early 30s. So we'll have just about every possible, uh, you know, decade covered, up until from the 20s to the 70s at that point.
And that's good. That's a good broad tent and growing. Like I said, that's beautiful. But what offices have you held in the lodge?
So the one I currently hold is the vice grand spot. Um, Other than that, I haven't held anything. I've been pro tem officers, for, say, initiatory degrees and things like that. And but other than that, I haven't held anything. We had to work together to kind of fill some of those roles because they didn't even have enough people, at the time, to fill anything. So I took over that spot mainly because the uh, member who didn't come very frequently uh, wasn't able to make it, and she was the vice grand. So, uh, and I'm sure as many Oddfellows know, in, say, degree conferrals, that's a pretty key spot
Is, yeah.
for portions of it.
And some more exciting news, actually, you told me about. You're trying to bring the Oddfellows back to Heber, uh, Arkansas, your hometown here. And it's, I believe you said the lodge, you're trying to recharter lodge number 7, is it? Of the Odd
17. Yeah,
7?
lodge number 17.
Okay, in Heber, Arkansas. So, and how is that working out?
Yeah, so pretty much all the members that I have gotten thus far have been from within Heber Springs. Um, it has gone pretty well. We have our above our minimum of 5 people of the third degree to be able to go and charter the lodge here. Um, One of the big things that we've kind of looked at is the fact that Heber Springs has, while it's not a great population, it is a population of about 7,000 people.
So even bigger than where
Whereas,
you are now.
oh yeah, whereas Scotland only has 250, and even the closest bigger town again is about 2,500. We still, you can still double that, and we still have more, a greater population of people, anyways. It's Ever since I started, I really wanted to get more people interested. Originally, it wasn't necessarily to start a lodge, it was just to get people
Yeah.
interested. So I kind of took one of the pamphlets that Sovereign Grand Lodge has for people, prospective members, and the like. And I kind of pick and choose some of the key points in it. And I made myself a little flyer that I would go and post on local Facebook groups. If they were interested, if anybody was interested, with some contact information and so on. And that was how I built up from that point. We also had
You have a Facebook page, by the way, for yours?
yes, we one of the things the lodge did not have whenever whenever I started was they had absolutely no online presence at all whatsoever.
You have to have
So
that nowadays. You got it.
you do. In this day and age, you just got to be able to get with the times. And well, one of those things is having some sort of online presence. So currently we have 2 admin of the Facebook. I am one of them. And we have 2 people who are in charge of the email that we set up. That way, you weren't having to contact, say, a very specific person directly. And that email could be handed off to somebody much easier than, oh, I got an email from so and so, that type of thing. If you just needed
Or the
access
other
to
thing
it.
I like about that is it is going to be answered in a timely manner. It's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
like,
yeah.
say you hand that email off. Yeah, this came in last week. Wait a minute. People do lose interest. You got to hit that iron while it's hot, right?
That's right.
Most of the Facebook pages I run as well have like even the email address, and the contact number, because I don't want people cooling off. They call me. I want to get that interest.
That's right.
It's
Well,
great.
and one of the things that they struggled with was when I joined, they didn't even know the street address to the building.
Oh, for crying out loud!
So literally, whenever I joined, or whenever I went to their first meeting, the first time I ever went, uh, they said it's in Scotland, Arkansas. You've probably never heard of it. It's just outside of Clinton. You're going to have to go to this road, make a left, go to this road, make a right, go down here a good ways, then make another left, another right. And if you see this building, you've gone too far.
Wow.
And it's hidden. If you don't know where that building is, you're not going to find it. So we finally got the postal address for it. You can find it if you put it in a GPS. You are able to find it that way. And it's accurate. It's not like it's off by, a quarter of a mile or something. Sometimes that can happen. It's accurate. And we have updated the lodge listing on the Sovereign Grand Lodge website for the directory, adding all the Facebook information as well as the email address,
Good.
pictures of the building, which, I mean, if you didn't know what you were looking for, you might not know what that building is. It is a 2-story building, which not everybody, not all lodges have that luxury of having a 2-story building. So we've got that, and with it being hidden, again, you could just drive right by it and you never know what you saw.
Now, what drew you to the Odd Fellows? Now, tell me the story of that.
So originally, I was living in Virginia. At the time, I was going around and looking at different fraternal groups, very into history. I had done some looking into the Freemasons and whatnot. And at one point in time, the Odd Fellows popped up because they were so very close back in the 1800s, turn of the century, with the Freemasons. The Oddfellows and the Freemasons worked very closely together, and a lot of the time, if you were a Freemason, you were also an Oddfellow.
Yes, there were many of your presidents.
Yes. So I had done some research about them. I didn't even know if that was, a fraternal organization that was even still around, because I had never heard of that before. I did some looking. I was interested in possibly joining if it was still around. Found out that it was, and found out that the closest lodge to me at the time was 3 hours away.
Sheesh.
And that was kind of out of the question for me. I couldn't
Yeah,
drive 3 hours to go to a meeting.
I understand.
Um, so I put it on hold. We moved to Arkansas, and I found out that there was um, a lodge about an hour away. Um, and I did some networking with a couple people trying to figure out some contact information. Finally got it, and it took me about a year to finally get my butt over there. But I did, and it was. I mean, they really took me in with open arms. I had gone to a couple of Freemasons, and I didn't feel necessarily open armed like they did for me, at least at the Oddfellows Lodge.
Maybe they didn't need as many. Like sometimes when membership gets down, that's when these organizations start really like that sense of urgency hits in. But like
That's
you
right.
never get that far with any organization.
That's right.
Yeah. And what do you think Odd Fellowship could do for those thinking of joining?
Um, One of the big things that I have found is I have created a lot of networking connections. I mean, a ton in just my, say, 6 months of being a part of it. I have built a lot of friendships all over the country so far. Um, we went out to Dallas. We've already been out to Oklahoma City, again, building relationships with other people. Um, just everything that I could possibly find, I've started building friendships with. Uh, and it's that camaraderie aspect that I was looking for. So it gave me uh, more of a purpose,
Yeah.
more something to do. Uh, and if anybody was looking for something to get involved with, uh, especially in a positive aspect, because there's so much that the Oddfellows does do at local and on a bigger picture, globally
Mhm.
level that help out other people. And I've always been one to go out of my way to help somebody out whenever I can. And they definitely, that's, their core beliefs, visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. All of those are some very key points that I truly hold near and dear to me.
Mr. Castillo, I appreciate your time tonight, and I look forward to having you back to talk more about Odd Fellowship.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was Zachary Castillo, brothers and sisters. First in a series of interviews I did with our new friend here. But let's kind of take a look at what we've seen here. We have yet another example of a younger person coming into fraternalism. Okay. And first of all, people are saying that the younger crowd is not interested in fraternalism. They definitely are. I mean, this is living proof of it. There are people who will join. It's always been a very small part of society that joins fraternalism anyway. But people are saying that millennials and so on are not interested. They are interested, but we have to bring them in. And one of the problems is what we've encountered here. This gentleman, okay, he didn't even know where the lodge was. Even the Grand Lodge didn't seem to know where this lodge in Scotland was, from what I'm getting from the conversation. All right. The other thing is he's finding a lodge full of a lot of older members, unmotivated members, who are just basically waiting till the lodge shuts down. I mean, in some cases, they're not even going to have enough for a quorum, right? But he joins, and he's highly motivated, right? If you don't mind me referring to my notes here, um, one of the things that he found was things you've heard me talk about here on Points of Light Radio. Networking connections, friendships, more purpose in life, right? Right? And he's found these things, right? But he's also got this, being from the younger crowd, he's found things like the need for social media, right? Or the other thing is that Odd Fellowship needs more members. They do, right? And if you look at him, he's come in. What I will say for the members of his lodge is they were willing to allow him to use his tech savvy to build their online presence, their social media presence, and so on. And he is definitely upwardly mobile within Odd Fellowship. And this ties into something you've heard me say here on Points of Light Radio on previous segments, is that if you are a younger person coming into fraternalism, you will move up very fast and you will have an opportunity to really have influence in a way that previous generations didn't. And I think that's wonderful, right? And far from pushing the older members aside, what I love is that he's tapping into some of their experience and their knowledge of Odd Fellowship, right? The other thing I get from this particular segment is that the Odd Fellowship, is it just me, or over the last year or so that you saw, especially in the United States, you saw these segments where members are coming into Odd Fellowship in these appended bodies, and you're seeing them. Is it just me? They're really revamping lodges and so on, and a lot of these are younger members. Is it just me, or is Odd Fellowship, right, enjoying a bit of a renaissance, shall we say, right? I know what I've learned is that lodges can be revamped. It is possible to recharter lodges. We needn't rule that out. Okay. Odd Fellowship, it's good to hear, as well as other branches of fraternalism, are alive and they're growing. But we do need, based on what you saw here, is to raise awareness. And that's one of the things we're trying to do here on Points of Light Radio, is raise that profile. We need to raise awareness, and we need to leave our lodges open to fresh thinking and new ideas, right? But that's all I have time for today. I do think we made a friend there. He will be back, I promise. This is one of a series of interviews I've done with him. But before I go, I want to remind you again that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you and my guest, and you will see this gentleman will be back. But until we meet again, just step into the light.